Trump signs 30-day voluntary AI model review EO. Labs now face a quiet choice on timing. OpenAI can absorb the delay because its release calendar already has slack. Anthropic runs tighter cycles and will likely need to duplicate its safety team just for the government channel. The real pressure lands on smaller frontier players who lack the headcount. Expect at least one to ship without review inside 9 months, testing whether voluntary turns into a hard gate for federal cloud access. Microsoft launches Always-On Scout Autopilot Agent. Background agents change the cost equation fast. Scout keeps a session alive across Teams, Outlook, and SharePoint, which means every user now burns GPU minutes even when idle. Most CIOs will notice the new line item on their next Azure bill. OpenAI will have to decide whether to ship its own always-on runtime or lose the seat to whatever ships default in Windows. The margin hit lands first on third-party copilots that still wait for an explicit trigger. Microsoft unveils 7 new in-house MAI models. 7 models at once signals the end of Microsoft treating OpenAI as its sole frontier supplier. The specialized ones in transcription and voice will move first because they slot directly into existing Office pipelines. OpenAI loses the default path on those workloads. Expect the next contract renewal to carry lower volume commitments as a result. Smaller rivals building vertical agents now have a second cloud-native option that ships with enterprise compliance already attached. Nvidia debuts RTX Spark ARM AI PC chips. 1 petaflop in a laptop flips the assumption that personal agents need any cloud round trip at all. Enterprise security teams will push for local execution on anything involving internal data. That shift cuts directly into OpenAI and Anthropic inference revenue. Nvidia gains the default silicon for every Windows agent deployment. AMD and Intel now have 6 quarters to ship competitive ARM parts or accept a permanent backseat in the AI PC refresh cycle. Anthropic files confidential IPO at $965 billion valuation. Anthropic's move puts every remaining private AI lab on the clock. OpenAI now has to decide whether to file within 90 days or watch its best people chase the new public stock options. The second-order effect hits inference costs. Public markets will demand margin expansion that only comes from hiking API rates 6 months after the bell. Smaller labs lose the ability to compete on price without similar liquidity events. Expect rate card changes right after earnings season begins. Nvidia introduces Vera CPU for agentic compute. x86 vendors just lost their default slot in the agent rack. Vera's memory bandwidth advantage compounds when agents run continuous loops instead of one-off inferences. The performance delta shows up fastest in multi-turn agent sessions that x86 memory subsystems were never sized for. Intel and AMD must now either license similar high-bandwidth tech or accept shrinking design wins in the inference tier. Cloud providers who bet on x86 cycles now face mismatched roadmaps. Expect design wins to flip within 2 quarters. Nvidia advances physical AI with Cosmos 3 and GR00T. Simulation fidelity now determines who ships robots first. Cosmos 3 cuts the synthetic data gap enough that humanoid startups can skip 2 full hardware iterations. Figure and Boston Dynamics must either integrate the GR00T reference stack or explain to backers why their custom controllers still justify the extra years. The second-order squeeze lands on sensor makers whose interfaces get standardized inside the Nvidia platform. Watch contract negotiations with LiDAR suppliers tighten once reference designs lock in camera-first stacks. Microsoft reveals Majorana 2 quantum processor. Error rates drop enough that hybrid quantum classical workflows finally clear the prototype stage. Google and IBM must now defend their superconducting bets against a topological alternative that Microsoft claims avoids the dilution problem entirely. The second-order impact hits cloud HPC teams whose queue priorities get reordered once quantum nodes move from experimental to reserved capacity. Chemical simulation workloads migrate first. Pharma partners running molecular modeling get the first Azure Quantum credits next fiscal year. Nvidia launches secure agent workspaces. Secure isolation layers on AI factories raise the bar for anyone handling regulated data flows. The move locks hardware choices for the next cycle because only Nvidia's stack ships the certified confidential compute path today. Expect mid-market vendors to lose deals once compliance teams start requiring these workspaces. Salesforce integration teams will feel the pinch first when agent workflows hit financial services by Q2 next year. Smaller players without access to the same silicon will watch their enterprise pipeline shrink. Taiwan president pledges AI resources at Computex. Energy allocations announced today will decide which AI clusters actually come online in 2027. The government support masks a tighter constraint on grid capacity that foreign chip makers must now negotiate directly with Taipower. Watch how this plays out for TSMC's capacity commitments once power purchase agreements get signed. Intel's foundry push in the region faces an unexpected delay risk if local priorities shift toward domestic models. AMD must accelerate alternative sites or accept slower ramps. Microsoft pushes Project Solara Agent-First Vision. Agent-First computing flips the resource model so that background tasks now consume the majority of cycles on any given device. Microsoft is betting enterprise SLAs will absorb the added latency costs without pushing back on pricing. The second-order effect hits third-party app stores hardest when autonomous agents bypass traditional install flows entirely. OpenAI faces pressure to embed similar controls in their desktop clients before Windows defaults take hold. This forces a choice on pricing models within the next release cycle. Microsoft debuts RTX Spark DevBox hardware. Developers get early access to agent testing hardware that already includes the isolation primitives Nvidia announced. The real constraint shifts to software frameworks that must now target this specific platform to hit performance targets. Apple loses ground in the AI dev community if these boxes become the default for agent iteration inside Windows shops. Expect training data pipelines to standardize around the Spark stack faster than anticipated. Competitors will see their developer ecosystems erode within 12 months.